for sitting down with us today.
You're welcome.
Who are you and why are you here?
I actually don't know why I'm here, but I'm Torin Ellis.
Say more about that.
Torin Ellis, diversity strategist, risk mitigator, analyst. I do all things diversity and inclusion. And I think the reason why I'm here is because you all have some interesting questions to ask of me.
You came just for us, is that what you're saying?
Just for the stars of RecFest.
Too kind.
RecFest,
Too kind.
Nashville
No
2024.
No pressure, Chad.
Indeed.
2024. Woo. Okay, so right out of the gate,
That seemed like that was really thoughtful.
it's because it
You
is.
did like that?
It just
Not
popped,
scripted
just popped
at all.
out. What advice would you have to your peers moving into Q4 and then 2025 to do better about this industry?
So, I mean, who are the peers? Are we talking?
Your peers.
Oh, my peers?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. So for anyone who's in the D&I space,
Yeah.
to remain committed in the face of adversity. You know, that we don't allow the smaller voices, these individuals with podcasts and opinions that are suggesting, you know, that D&I, and that's not taking anything away from podcasts and opinions, but, you know, individuals that are suggesting that diversity and inclusion is anything other than humanity, is anything other than focus or being focused on building high-performing teams. I want you to remain vigilant, to remain fervent in your showing up to chase down diversity and inclusion.
but what
We've
happens-
capitulated. It's just too much retreat.
But what happens when the leaders are actually forcing? I mean, you got guys who are leading organizations telling people to stand down. Not to mention taking equity out of the DE and I. I mean, it's like there's this vacuum and everything's getting sucked out.
So listen, I mean, this is 6 in one hand, half a dozen in another. Truth of the matter is, most people need employment. They need their income.
Yeah.
They got to be able to take care of themselves, their families.
Right.
I absolutely get it. I'm not suggesting that every person gets to be a bull in the china shop. They get to run in screaming as loud as they possibly can that we must be more committed. But what I am suggesting is that you have to challenge the leaders of your organization to be focused on first your stakeholders and then your shareholders. You don't get dividends or returns or profits or any of those things if we don't have an organization.
Right.
Focus on my people. There should be no CEO allowing people outside of the organization to sit up here and suggest that D&I is not important and then say, I'm going to retreat. I'm not going to live out my human rights campaign initiatives. I'm going to come back on all of the social imperatives that I said were important. There should be no CEO that is submitting to that. And as an individual, you should have some degree of authority and voice and data to support why you are challenging them on that decision.
Dumb white guy question incoming. Ready?
It won't be the first one that I fielded today.
Because you've interviewed with us before. You're calling it D&I. I'm still calling it DEI. It's been DEIB. Why change? Is that official now?
No, it's not a change.
Is it
it's
just preference by you?
It's just brevity for the sake of the conversation. Yeah, that's all.
But we took equity out. Why? Because Sherm did?
We didn't. We definitely didn't do it because of Sherm. Okay. So you're messing around now. You trying to start something. No, I'm just doing it brevity for the sake of conversation. It's always going to be DEI.
But they're all correct.
They're all correct. And
No, okay.
honestly, I don't lose sleep on even Sherm in their ill-advised decision. While I didn't agree with it, while I wouldn't have encouraged them to do it, while I wrote a post talking about why they shouldn't have done it, the bottom line is, as long as a person is committed, I don't care what the letters are. Listen, like I said in the post, LGBTQIA++, they're adding letters to their acronym while we have organizations that are extrapolating letters from ours. We're all moving in the same direction. We're trying to do better about protecting audiences, communities, geographies, how we're developing products, services, all of the things that matter in building a high-performing business.
So what surprised you most thus far in 2024?
The number of organizations that said D&I or DEIB is not important.
Yeah.
That surprised me.
Yeah.
Yeah, simple as that. So much so of a surprise that I'm not reposting them. I don't comment on them because I don't want to amplify what I know is, now listen, it surprised me by the number that have retreated.
Yeah.
But when you look at the facts and you understand who's doing the work in the business, there's still a lot of people and a lot of activity that's happening in D&I, and that's what I'm focused on, not the people that are retreating.
How much of the abandonment, I guess, in your opinion, is our customers are politically aligned here? They're telling us not to do this, so we're going to abandon it because our buyers are saying it. And what percentage are saying we're going to leave it because we don't want to be political at all? We want to make money for our shareholders and give our employees some level of financial security. In your opinion, is it mostly political, or is it mostly like we just don't want to get involved, or is it equal parts?
I think right now you'd have to attribute it to the political climate.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
about
whole
everything.
position of being apolitical, that was probably a position maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago, or maybe more like 2-3 years ago. Organizations, I won't call their names, but some of them made statements in public. We're going to be an apolitical organization.
Yeah.
I get it. That's what they were doing then. I think now anyone deciding to do it is indirectly aligned to a political decision. Yeah.
So going forward now, looking toward 2025, what's your number one priority?
I don't think that changes for me. I
Yeah.
think it's how do I, keep the intensity the same? How do I continue to remind people that D&I is about chasing humanity?
Yeah.
It's about having better leaders in the organization that are willing to model what it looks like to be inclusive.
Right.
It's about challenging organizations to develop benefit schedules that really accommodate for the lack of pay and compensation that women have experienced. I mean, we passed legislation that says that we are supposed to compensate women fairly, and we haven't lived that out in 50 years.
Yeah.
So it's about intensifying what we know to be right and divorcing ourselves from the hyperbolic statements or positions that categorize D&I as being anything other than it really is.
Yeah.
Like, I absolutely read something a couple of days ago, again, I'm not going to quote the organization, but they categorize D&I as a sexual extortion initiative. How do you categorize D&I as a sexual extortion initiative? And people believe that. So,
I don't even know what the hell that means.
neither do I, but the point is they put it out.
Yeah.
It'll get a whole bunch of
Press.
press and activity on the social feeds,
Yeah.
and you got to be willing and capable of suppressing that when it's presented to you as a practitioner.
So I want to leave on a positive note.
Sure.
The headlines go to the companies that are saying we're out, we don't practice D&I, but I know that every day you're dealing with companies that are embracing it. And I know that you have a lot of hope for younger generations where this is just how it is. This isn't something that is abnormal. So I want you to take a few minutes to talk about the companies doing it right, maybe examples of what they're doing, and your take on the younger generations and how they view this initiative.
Yeah, I mean, again, I just support the young people that have the energy, the desire, the curiosity to chase down what humanity looks like on a broader basis. As far as organizations that are doing it right, they're doing it right because they're either recategorizing how D&I operates inside of their organization. They're still making hires in classifying the individual as the chief diversity officer or over the diversity and inclusion programming. Organizations that are doing it right are still celebrating certain activities that are happening inside of their organization, raising awareness around causes that impact people inside of their organization. The organizations that are doing it right are not retreating from their human rights campaign initiative. They're still putting their diversity numbers up on their website. Organizations that are doing it right are still exploring ways to expand their supplier diversity footprint.
Yep.
So the bottom line is it's happening in a lot of ways, and they don't always have to have the categorization of D&I over them to be celebrated. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
I'm not looking for the highlight and the neon light and the celebration. I'm looking for the substantive commitment. I'm looking for the unwavering belief that when you do D&I, you are making not only your organization better, but your people better, your communities where you do business better. That's what I'm looking for.
You know what I celebrate? Time
I got one more
with
before
Torin
you wrap, if
Ellis.
that's what you're doing.
Go ahead.
So we sat down at RecFest five or so years ago.
2019.
Yeah, and two white guys asked you, what can we do to move this movement forward? And you said, speak up. I'm just wondering, 5 years on, is that still your advice to two white guys?
And do you think we have? I think that's the thing that I care about the most.
Got it. Okay, so let me answer the second one first.
Yeah.
Yes, I think you all have added more programming to Chad and Cheese. And not only programming, content and voices. You've covered stories, you've found stories and had discussions. I've listened to some of them, but you've also had more voices on the podcast that have talked about the subject of D&I. What do I believe still that absolutely. You still need to lend your voice. Sometimes you need to lend your privilege. There are rooms that you are going to walk in that I'll never be able to walk into. Not because I'm not capable, not because I'm not qualified, I'm just not invited. So I need you while you're in that room, when you hear things or you see signals or engage with signals that suggest that this organization may be a bit wayward, this organization may be curious, this organization may need a resource, a consultant. I need you to be able to say, yeah, I know this person or I know that person or whatever the case may be. So we all, listen, I'll close it on this. Empowerment, strategic exploration, and tactical execution. The first thing is you have to have voice. We cannot be silent in the face of injustice. So you gotta speak up, you gotta speak up, I gotta speak up, the people behind the camera, they gotta speak up. You gotta be empowered. You gotta have a voice. You gotta call a thing a thing. We're working on a bias report right now, reducing bias in HR using AI. And during one of our discussions, one person in the think tank or the focus group said, well, I don't really want, reducing assumes that there's already bias.
Yeah.
And the person said, I don't really want to assume that there's already bias in the technology.
Yeah.
And somebody else in the focus group said, nah, we're humans. We all have bias. So let's stop tiptoeing and playing around like there's no bias there. It's there. What are we going to do to make it better? So I need you to speak up.
Yeah. So for any company who wants to get you in that room, in their room, how do they get a hold of you?
TorinEllis.com, TorinEllis.com, TorinEllis.com.
My man.
Indeed.
Thanks for coming, man.
You got it.
Thanks for hanging out, Torin.
Absolutely.